Welcome to Birds and Other Wildlife of India 2024. We will be visiting 3 areas within India and primarily noting the avian life that resides within each of these. These areas will include Keoladeo Ghana National Park, also known as the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary. It is located about a 4 to 5 hour drive south of Delhi. We will also visit Sultanpur National Park, formerly known as Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary. It is located about an hour's drive from Delhi. And we'll also visit Manas National Park, located in the eastern Indian province of Assam. Manas National Park is also famously home to the Indian one-horned rhinoceros, the Asian elephant, and the Bengal tiger. But it also has a great variety of bird life, as we shall see. Keoladeo National Park, the former duck hunting reserve of the Maharajas, is one of the major wintering areas for large numbers of aquatic birds from Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, China, and Siberia. Some 364 species of birds, including the rare Siberian crane, have been recorded in this park. This bird paradise was developed in a natural depression wetland that was managed as a duck shooting reserve at the end of the 19th century. While hunting has ceased and the area declared a national park in 1982, its continued existence is dependent upon a regulated water supply from a reservoir outside the park boundary. The park's well-designed system of dikes and sluices provides areas of varying water depths which are used by various avifaunal species. The stunning dusky eagle owl is found in parts of Asia, including India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, among other countries. It generally prefers to make its home in flat, open habitats, very often close to water. It is a lowland species, inhabiting riparian forest, plantations, or woodlands from 0 to about 250 meters or 0 to 800 feet in elevation. As can be seen here, dusky eagle owls have striking yellow eyes and long ear tufts, which actually aren't ears at all. Though they share some resemblance to the ears of some mammals, in the cases of all-eared owls, such as the dusky eagle owl, they are simply long feathers that help with camouflage and possibly communication. Dusky eagle owls are arguably one of the most impressive-looking of all owl species. Their large, powerful feet and strong flight make them effective hunters. Like many raptors, these owls are top predators. They hunt other animals for food, but no animals hunt them on a regular basis. Dusky eagle owls thus play an important role in nature by helping to control populations of prey animals, such as rodents, and maintain a balance in the ecosystem where they occur. Researchers still have much to learn about the breeding and nesting habits of the dusky eagle owl, but here is what has been determined so far. Many owl species do not build their own nests, and the dusky eagle owl is no exception. It tends to use old stick nests built by other birds in which to lay its eggs. It might use nests built by other raptors, such as kites, vultures, or eagles. The dusky eagle owl usually selects a nest that has been built high in a tree, often where large branches fork. Though very rare, in India this species has been documented nesting on a cliff. Once a nest site has been selected, and the time is right, the female will lay between 1 to 3 eggs. It is suspected that the female does most of the incubation of the eggs, but scientists don't yet know how long the incubation period is. It is not yet known how long the young remain in the nest, when they fly for the first time, or how long they are dependent on their parents before dispersing. The Sarus crane is the tallest flying bird in the world, averaging 156 centimeters or 5 feet 4 inches in length, with a wingspan of up to 240 centimeters or 8 feet, and an average weight of 6.35 kilograms or about 14 pounds. Although females are smaller than males, the adult birds have light gray plumage covering their bodies and black-tipped wings. Their head and neck are covered with naked red skin, with a white crown and a long black bill. They also have long red legs and a patch of gray feathers covering the ears. The juvenile birds have a similar build but appear duller and browner. The sarus crane is a social species that occurs in flocks of various sizes depending upon the dimensions of the wetland. Within the flock there will be subgroups of 2 to 4 birds which live together. However, during nesting season they can become territorial and aggressive. These cranes are monogamous birds that breed during the rainy season from June to September. The mating procedure involves dancing, bowing, and loud trumpeting sounds. The female lays 2 to 3 eggs, which are incubated by both sexes for 31 to 34 days. The chicks then fledge from the age of 85 to 100 days. Despite being skilled and adept flyers, sarus cranes do not migrate. They use wetland vegetation to build large nests on the ground. Sarus cranes consume a varied omnivorous diet of aquatic plants, grains, and invertebrates, including various species of crustacea and insects. Sarus cranes use their long bills to probe the submerged mud layer. The sarus crane population is currently decreasing due to several factors, including human interference. Water diversions and wetland drainage for agriculture have led to habitat loss and land degradation. An increase in construction and changes to farming practices, including the use of pesticides, are also major threats. The destruction of their wetland habitat forces the birds to feed on crops where they ingest pesticides. Sarus crane chicks and eggs are also hunted for trade, food, and medicine. Snipes are wading birds with short legs and a short neck. Their bills, used in probing for food, are about twice the length of their heads. Common snipes as juveniles are black and or brown patterned with yellow tinted stripes down their dorsal sides with white ventral feathering. As common snipes grow out of their juvenile stage, they lose their yellow tint and are brown with black stripes and white ventral feathers. Common snipes are monogamous, the male mating with the same female year after year. Males can be classified as dominant, subdominant, or subordinate. Females typically choose to mate with dominant males that hold the highest quality territories, called central territories, where they are located at the center of their main habitat. Females choose males based on the male's drumming abilities. Drumming is the method of utilizing wind and the outer tail feathers to make a unique species-specific sound. The common snipe's breeding season is from early June through mid-July. They tend to nest in camouflaged vegetation areas next to swamps and marshes in which they forage. Common snipes lay 4 eggs, which are an olive color with dark brown patches. Their incubation period lasts for about 18 to 21 days. Once eggs hatch, the young fledge in 10 to 20 days. At this point, the young leave the nest and take flight for the first time. Male mallards have a dark iridescent green head and bright yellow bill. The gray body is sandwiched between a brown breast and black rear. Females and juveniles are mottled brown with orange and brown bills. Both sexes have a white-bordered blue speculum patch in the wing. Mallards are dabbling ducks. They feed in the water by tipping forward and grazing on underwater plants. They almost never dive. They can be very tame ducks, especially in city ponds, and often grouped together with other mallards and other species of dabbling ducks. Mallards can live in almost any wetland habitat, natural or artificial. Look for them on lakes, ponds, marshes, rivers, and coastal habitats, as well as city and suburban parks and residential backyards. The Eurasian widgeon is a medium-sized duck with a rounded head, medium-sized bill, moderately long tail, and broad pointed wings. An adult male in breeding plumage has a bright rufous brown head, buffy cream forecrown, gray body, black undertail, and in the wing a dark green speculum and white patch. Adult females are mostly brown with rufous flanks and white belly. Some females have a rufous brown head, neck, and chest. Eurasian widgeons forage in flocks for most of the year, finding food by dabbling at the water's surface or tipping up, submerging the head and neck to reach food underwater. They are often in mixed flocks with American widgeons and other dabbling duck species. Courting males perform animated ritual movements with the head and wings, often gathering in groups to court a single female. Eurasian widgeons breed near ponds, lakes, and marshes in open and semi-open areas, including partly forested habitats of the north. They overwinter on freshwater lakes and marshes, salt marshes, brackish lagoons, estuaries, bays, and other sheltered coastal sites. The Indian spot-billed duck is a large dabbling duck that is a non-migratory breeder throughout freshwater wetlands in the Indian subcontinent. The name is derived from the red spot at the base of the bill that is found in the mainland Indian population. When in the water, it can be recognized from a long distance by the white tertials, that is, the flight feathers borne on the basal joint of a bird's wing, that form a stripe on the side, and in flight it can be distinguished by the green speculum with broad white band at the base. This duck is a resident throughout Pakistan and India in freshwater wetlands. They tend to avoid very large patches of open water and prefer medium-sized wetlands with vegetation cover. It nests on the ground, hidden within vegetation near water, and lays 8 to 14 eggs. The glossy ibis is a medium-sized wading bird with compact body, long neck, long legs, and long curved bill. The plumage appears dark, almost blackish at a distance or in poor light. At close range, much of the body is maroon, with the wing coverts showing metallic green, bronze, and violet tones. Glossy ibises occur in flocks, both at nesting colonies and when foraging. They typically feed by lowering the bill into water, mud, or soil to feel for prey, and they often feed among many other species of wading birds. Glossy ibises frequent almost any wetland environment with shallow water or exposed mud, and also readily feed in farm fields or open areas where soils are moist. The pied kingfisher is a species of water kingfisher widely distributed across Africa and Asia. Originally described by Carl Linnaeus in 1758, it has 5 recognized subspecies. Its black and white plumage and crest, as well as its habit of hovering over clear lakes and rivers before diving for fish, make it distinctive. Males have a double band across the breast, while females have a single gorget that is often broken in the middle. They are usually found in pairs or small family groups. When perched, they often bob their head and flick up their tail. Pied kingfishers are carnivores, primarily eating fish, but sometimes aquatic insects, frogs, amphibians, crustaceans, and mollusks. Pied kingfishers are monogamous and form pairs. They breed from February to April. Courtship involves displays of dancing which are carried out by 3 to 12 males together. Males also offer food to females over a period that lasts about 3 weeks. Both the male and female help to dig a nest hole in the soft earth of a bank, above water, or sometimes in grassy ground. 4 to 5 white shiny eggs are laid and are incubated by both parents for about 18 days. While the nest is being dug and during laying and the incubation period, the male bird displays and brings food for the female and helps to raise the chicks before they fledge. The fledglings stay in the nest for about 3 weeks and become reproductively mature when they are 1 year old. The painted stork is a large wader in the stork family. It is found in the wetlands of the plains of tropical Asia south of the Himalayas in the Indian subcontinent and extending into Southeast Asia. The distinct pink tertial feathers of the adults give them their name. Painted storks forage in flocks in shallow waters along rivers or lakes. They immerse their half-open beaks in the water and sweep them from side to side and snap up their prey of small fish that are sensed by touch. Painted storks are monogamous and form pairs. The female lays 1 to 5 eggs and incubates them for about a month. The chicks are altricial. They are born naked and with eyes closed. The greater cuckoo is a large bird that resembles a cross between a crow and a pheasant. It is common across a range of habitats except very dense forests. Similar to the lesser cuckoo, the greater cuckoo is larger with a longer bill and red eyes. Adult greater cuckoos also lack the white streaks on the wings seen on the lesser cuckoo. The call is a series of deep resonant oop 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 notes. White-throated kingfishers are found in Asia, from Sinai in the east through the Indian subcontinent to China and Indonesia. They are mainly resident over much of their range, although some populations may make short-distance movements. White-throated kingfishers live in a variety of habitats, mostly open country in the plains with trees, wires, or other perches. However, they have also been seen in the Himalayas. The jungle nightjar is a species of nightjar found in the Indian subcontinent. It is found mainly on the edge of forests, where it is seen or heard at dusk. The jungle nightjar is about 21 to 24 centimeters long, or 9 to 10 inches. The jungle nightjar becomes active at dusk, often over hilly grassland or scrub, perching regularly at favorite prominent bare posts or rocks. It roosts in trees, perching lengthwise along a branch. The breeding season in India is from January to June and March to July in Sri Lanka. The nest is a bare patch on the ground in which 2 eggs are laid. Both parents incubate the eggs for about 16 to 17 days. The oriental magpie robin is a small passerine bird that was formerly classified as a member of the thrush family, Turdidae, but it is now regarded as an Old World flycatcher. These birds are particularly well known for their songs and were once popular as cage birds. The bay-backed shrike is a brightly colored small shrike reminiscent of the long-tailed shrike in overall coloration. Black mask, rufous flanks and back, clean white throat, and small size make it distinctive within its range. It prefers open areas, often in dry regions with scattered vegetation. The bay-backed shrike often perches up on exposed snags, fence posts, or telephone lines. The song is a messy jumble of musical warbles, harsh churs, and sharp twanging notes. Grebes are diving water birds, feeding on small fish and aquatic invertebrates. The little grebe, or dabchick as it is sometimes known, is the smallest of Indian grebes, about half the size of a moorhen. Like other grebe species, it nests on floating platforms made up of waterweed. Notably, this can be a noisy bird, making a distinctive whinnying trill. The rhesus macaque is a commonly encountered monkey in Keoladeo National Park. Rhesus macaques have an important history with humans and have aided a great deal of medical and scientific research. Rhesus antigens found in their blood enable doctors to identify the different human blood groups. These primates also preceded humans into space. The nilgai is the largest Asian antelope native to the Indian subcontinent. It has been associated with Indian culture since the Vedic period, from 1500 to 500 BCE. The Eurasian hoopoe is the most widespread species of the genus Upupa. It is a distinctive cinnamon-colored bird with black and white wings, a tall erectile crest, a broad white band across the black tail, and a narrow, down-curved bill. Eurasian hoopoes are widespread in Europe, Asia, and North Africa, and southern sub-Saharan Africa. Its primarily carnivorous diet consists mostly of insects, although small reptiles, frogs, and plant matter such as seeds and berries, are taken as well. Eurasian hoopoes are serially monogamous, meaning they form pair bonds that last for a single breeding season. Cheetal are a lightly built deer species. Males are larger and heavier than females. The bright reddish-brown coat of both sexes is marked with scattered white spots during all seasons. And about a 1 hour's drive outside of Keoladeo National Park, we visit the Chambol River to observe two crocodilian species, the gharial, seen here, and the mugger crocodile. The gharial is one of only two species in the Gavialidae family. It has a characteristic elongated, narrow snout, similar only to Tomistoma, previously called the false gharial. Many sharp interlocking teeth line the gharial's elongated jaws. The gharial is one of the largest of all crocodilian species, with males attaining lengths of 16 to 20 feet, that is 5 to 6 meters. Females typically grow to lengths of 11.5 to 15 feet, or 3.5 to 4.5 meters. Historically, the gharial's range spanned rivers of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. Today, only fragmented populations remain in Nepal and northern India. Adult gharials primarily eat fish, while juveniles also feed on insects, crustaceans, and frogs. The crocodile's unique snout, along with its sharp interlocking teeth, help it to capture prey, quickly striking at fish in the water. Like other crocodilians, gharials are polygamous, with one male defending a territory where he and several females live. Females dig a nest during the dry season, between March and April, and deposit an average of 40 eggs, which hatch from 60 to 80 days later. As with all crocodilians, the sex of the hatchlings is determined during incubation. Females who are protective of their nest and hatchlings provide the sole parental care. Attaining lengths of 4.5 meters or 15 feet, mugger crocodiles are notably opportunistic carnivores. They are capable of eating any animal smaller than them, including other crocodiles. They are considered sit-and-wait hunters and can eat birds and bats that try to eat off the surface of the water. They even eat the eggs of other species. As hatchlings, mugger crocodiles eat small insects and other small invertebrates, including crustaceans. However, as they grow, so does the average size of their prey items. Mugger crocodiles perform a critical role in maintaining the structure and function of freshwater ecosystems because they are a top predator and therefore a keystone species affecting all of the animals below them in the food chain. The Indian skimmer is unmistakable with its black above and white below and bright orange bill. The lower mandible is longer than the upper mandible. It favors slow-moving rivers with sandbars, on which this species forms noisy colonies. It is often associated with terns. The Indian skimmer flies rapidly on long angular wings, skimming the water with the extended lower mandible. When this lower mandible encounters a prey item such as a fish, it closes, and in this way, the Indian skimmer feeds. And now we'll digress momentarily away from our birding and other wildlife viewing to enjoy some scenes of the Bagh Resort in Bharatapur, India. The Bagh Resort functions rather like an oasis for all wildlife tourists and scientists visiting Keoladeo, Ghana National Park. The bog is a luxury heritage resort and is spread out over an extensive area of 12 acres. Over 200 years old, the Bog Luxury Heritage Resort is constructed in 3 different residential complexes containing a total of 23 luxury rooms. A multi-cuisine restaurant, spacious and beautiful banquet hall, coffee shop, large library, and gymnasium are all constructed amidst a placid and soothing garden. The Indian vulture or long-billed vulture is found throughout southeastern Pakistan and India, south of the Ganges River, except for the extreme south, east to Indochina and the northern Malay Peninsula. It is now considered extinct in the eastern and southern portion of its range. The long-billed vulture was once a very common resident throughout much of its range. However, biologists began to notice a steep decline in the numbers of birds they were observing in the late 1990s and early 2000s. One survey noted a drop of over 90% in population numbers. It took biologists a while to discover the cause of the decline. It was due to a drug called diclofenac that is used by farmers to treat ill donkeys, horses, and cows. When an animal treated with diclofenac dies, the diclofenac remains in that animal's system. When vultures feed on the remains of these animals, they unknowingly swallow meat and tissue that contains traces of this drug along with their meal. The diclofenac poisons the vultures, making them very sick. Many of these vultures die because their kidneys fail. Thankfully, the drug was banned for veterinary use in 2006 by India, Pakistan, and Nepal, and Bangladesh took similar action in 2010. Sadly, despite the ban, diclofenac is still widely available in some parts of these countries, and other drugs with similar effects are also still on the market. It needs to be considered that as nature's cleanup crew, vultures and other carrion eaters often consume organisms in dead and decaying animals that are harmful to humans and the environment. Thus, it is in humans' best interests to protect the Indian vulture and all other vulture species. The red-wattled lapwing is an Asian lapwing or large plover, a waiter in the family Charadriidae. Like other lapwings, they are ground birds that are incapable of perching. Their characteristic loud alarm calls are indicators of human or animal movements, and the sounds have been variously rendered as "did he do it" or "pity to do it," leading to the colloquial name "did he do it bird." Usually seen in pairs or small groups not far from the water, they sometimes form large aggregations in the non-breeding season, which is winter. They nest in a ground scrape laying 3 to 4 camouflage eggs. Adults near the nest fly around, diving at potential predators, while the cryptically patterned chicks hatch and immediately follow their parents to feed, hiding by lying low on the ground or in the grass when threatened. The golden jackal is the most northerly of jackal species, and also the most widely distributed. It overlaps biotypes only with the black-backed jackal in East African savannas. Golden jackals prefer dry open country, arid short grasslands, and steppe landscapes. It is notable how very tolerant of one another are the various species of water birds seen here. We see the little cormorant, the great cormorant, the great egret, and the little egret, all which are common water birds in Keoladeo National Park. The Indian silverbill is a small passerine bird found in South Asia. It was formerly considered to include the closely related African silverbill. This finch is a common resident breeding bird in the dry regions of the Middle East and South Asia. It has also been introduced into many other parts of the world and has become established in other areas. They forage in small flocks in grassland and scrub habitats. The black-headed ibis, also known as the Oriental white ibis, Indian white ibis, and black-necked ibis, is a species of wading bird of the ibis family, Thresciornithidae. It breeds in southern and Southeast Asia from India to the west and as far east as Japan. It is the only native ibis species in its range and has an overall white plumage with a black neck and head. The down-curved beak and legs are also black. Though often referred to as a wetland species, the black-headed ibis forages in a range of natural and man-made habitats. This species of ibis nests only during the rainy season. When anhingas aren't slyly swimming through shallow waters with only their heads sticking out, they are easy to spot hanging themselves out to dry. Look around the borders of lakes and ponds with forested edges for a sunning bird. In the heat of the late afternoon, look up in the sky for anhingas taking advantage of rising thermals. Despite being a water bird, they soar quite well and are frequently seen soaring at great heights with a distinctive cross-shaped silhouette. Indian pond herons are very common in India and are usually solitary foragers, but numbers of them may sometimes feed in close proximity during the dry seasons when small wetlands have a high concentration of prey. They are semi-colonial breeders. During dry seasons, they sometimes take to foraging on well-watered lawns or even dry grassland. When foraging, they allow close approach and flush only at close range. They sometimes form communal roosts, often in avenue trees over busy urban areas. With its long legs and elegant neck, the gray heron strikes a regal pose as it stands motionless in shallow water, waiting to strike an unsuspecting fish. The yellow-footed green pigeon, also known as the yellow-legged green pigeon, is a common species of green pigeon found in the Indian subcontinent. This green pigeon is exclusively arboreal and seldom, if ever, descends to the ground. Their food consists entirely of fruits and berries, wild figs predominantly, but buds and shoots are also eaten. They have pleasant, soft, and mellow whistling calls, which usually give the first indication of their presence in a locality. We now visit Manas National Park, and here we encounter the open-billed stork. This is a relatively small stork species with a grayish to white body and black wings and tail with a hint of gloss. The Asian open-bill gets its name from a distinctive gap in the dull grayish-yellow bill. Note the pinkish legs. Asian open-bills inhabit wetland habitats including shallow marshes, flooded agricultural fields, and lakes. Digressing once again from the avifauna that we have been presenting, we encounter the Asian elephant. This is the largest land mammal of the Asian continent. It inhabits dry to wet forest and grassland habitats in 13 range countries spanning South and Southeastern Asia. Notably, Asian elephants are extremely sociable, forming groups of 6 to 7 related females that are led by the oldest female, the matriarch. Like African elephants, these groups occasionally join others to form larger herds, although these associations are relatively short-lived. In Asia, elephant herd sizes are significantly smaller than those of savanna elephants in Africa. More than 2/3 of an elephant's day may be spent feeding on grasses, but it also eats large amounts of tree bark, roots, leaves, and small stems. Cultivated crops such as bananas, rice, and sugarcane are favorite foods. Elephants are always close to a source of fresh water because they need to drink at least once a day. The greatest threats to Asian elephants are habitat loss and fragmentation. Asia is the most populous continent on Earth, where development and economic growth have led to encroachment into places where elephants live. This has led to an average of 70% of elephants being forced outside protected areas today. Expanding human settlements, plantations, industry, farming, mining, and linear infrastructure such as roads, Railway lines, irrigation canals, etc. have squeezed elephant populations into smaller pockets of forest surrounded by human settlements that often block traditional migratory routes. Another significant threat to elephants is human-elephant conflict. With a significant portion of the elephant population living outside protected areas, most of which contain agricultural lands and human settlements, interactions between elephants and humans have been on the rise. These encounters, often negative, lead to crop and property loss, injury, and death. These impacts may cause humans to retaliate against elephants, often with lethal outcomes. The green sandpiper is a small wading shorebird of the Old World. It represents an ancient lineage of the genus Tringa. Its only close living relative is the solitary sandpiper. They both have brown wings with little light dots and a delicate but contrasting neck and chest pattern. The common kingfisher, also known as the Eurasian kingfisher and river kingfisher, is a small kingfisher with 7 subspecies recognized within its wide distribution across Eurasia and North Africa. It is resident in much of its range, but migrates from areas where rivers freeze in winter. This sparrow-sized bird has the typical short-tailed, large-headed kingfisher profile. It feeds mainly on fish. The glossy white eggs are laid in a nest at the end of a burrow in a riverbank. The stork-billed kingfisher is a massive kingfisher with a large scarlet bill. It prefers large streams, rivers, and the edges of large water bodies with vegetated banks. The greater painted snipe is a medium-sized, stunningly plumaged shorebird of grassy fields and marshes. Both sexes have a bright white comma around the eye and white underparts that extend up in an arc above the shoulder. As in phalaropes, the male is much duller than the female. The female has a bright reddish-brown head and greenish-tinged back and wings. The more cryptically colored male has a light brown head and brown underparts dappled with orange and tan spots, thus more similar to snipe. Displaying female gives a series of owl-like hoots. Also seen in Manas National Park is the greater one-horned rhinoceros, or Indian rhino. It is the largest of the 3 extant Asian rhinoceros species. Once widespread across the entire northern part of the Indian subcontinent, rhino populations plummeted as they were hunted for sport or killed as agricultural pests. This pushed the species very close to extinction, and by the beginning of the 20th century, only about 200 wild greater one-horned rhinoceros remained. The recovery of the greater one-horned rhinoceros is among the greatest conservation success stories in Asia. The wild water buffalo, also called the Asian buffalo, Asiatic buffalo, and wild buffalo, is a large bovine native to the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. It has been listed as endangered on the IUCN Red List since 1986, as the remaining population totals less than 4,000 individuals. A population decline of at least 50% over the last 3 generations, that is 24 to 30 years, is projected to continue. The global population has been estimated at 3,400 individuals, of which 3,100, 91%, live in India, mostly in Assam. The crested bunting has a spiky, upright crest that distinguishes this large bunting from similar species. The male is glossy black with bright chestnut wings. The female is streaked dirt brown with slightly duller wings. A hill specialist, often found on rocky, bushy hillsides and terraced fields, it generally occurs in pairs or small flocks. Its short song begins with a few buzzy notes and ends with mellow whistling. The call is a hard chick. The long-tailed shrike is a large, noisy shrike typical of open habitats across Asia. Adults have a dark mask with a light gray upper back with a variable amount of orange on lower back and flanks. This bird has a characteristic upright shrike attitude when perched on a bush, from which it glides down at an angle to take lizards, large insects, small birds, and rodents. The common hawk cuckoo is a medium-sized bird that resembles a shikra in plumage. Males have ashy gray upper parts, white underparts with rufous streaking and barring, a broadly barred tail, and a distinct yellow eye rim. Females and juveniles are browner and bolder streaking below. During their breeding season, males produce a loud, repetitive 3-note call. Common hawk cuckoos feed mainly on insects and are specialized feeders that can handle hairy caterpillars. This species is arboreal and rarely descends to the ground, mainly a brood parasite of babblers. The great hornbill, also known as the great Indian hornbill, is a large bird with a very large bill, which bears a sizable, brightly colored, horny growth known as a casque. The body is mostly black with a white neck, wing coverts, and flight feathers. The great hornbill can attain lengths of 40. Adult great hornbills attain lengths of 40 to 48 inches. That is, adult great hornbills attain tip of beak to end of tail lengths of 100 to 120 centimeters, that is 40 to 48 inches. The wingspan can be as much as 150 centimeters, or 5 feet. Males grow larger than females. The weight averages 3 kilograms in an adult, that is 6.6 pounds. The great hornbill diet is comprised primarily of figs, but the species also takes eggs, amphibians, reptiles, insects, mammals, and small birds. The red-breasted parakeet is a mustachioed parakeet of lowland forests and forest edges, found in gardens and parks in its introduced range. Both sexes are bright green with salmon-colored chests, gray-blue heads, and a black mustache. Males have a bright red upper bill, while females' bills are entirely black. It is usually seen flying over speedily, giving high-pitched, grating shrieks. The streaked spider hunter is a large and noisy inhabitant of tropical and subtropical hill forests. It is a large spider hunter with a long, curved black bill and black streaking all over its yellow-green upper parts and lighter yellow underparts. It eats invertebrates from foliage, but also hovers around and probes into flowers for nectar. It often moves with mixed flocks. It calls frequently, giving a loud, decisive sounding ch-tk, ch-tk. The purple sunbird breeding male has, overall, a metallic blue and purple color with maroon feathers on the breast. The female is olive above and yellow below. The non-breeding male of this species is primarily olive brown with blackish upper parts and yellow underparts with blue-black band running down the throat and chest. Seen in pairs feeding chiefly on nectar, but they also take insects. Breeding males display by fluttering their wings in front of females while singing. They are found in gardens, cultivated areas, and forests. The crested serpent eagle is a rather large, heavily built eagle with a dark, white-tipped, bushy crest that gives it a distinctive, large-headed look. When raised in alarm, the crest frames the whole face, highlighting the bare yellow lores and eyes, making the head look larger and fiercer. The rufus-brown underparts have neatly arranged, dark-edged, bold white spots. In flight, shows broad rounded wings with a black trailing edge. Juveniles are predominantly white with dark streaks below. Commonly seen perched upright in well-wooded areas with wing tips nearly covering the broad white subterminal band on the tail. Its 1 to 3 note scream is often heard in the forest. The brown hawk owl is a dark brown, medium-sized hawk-like owl with a round head and no ear tufts. It is also known as the oriental hawk owl, or the brown boobook. The brown hawk owl feeds mainly on large insects such as beetles and grasshoppers, but also frogs, lizards, small birds, mice, and occasionally small insectivorous bats or crabs. They hunt at dusk, using a perch on a tree stump or post to look for prey. They have been observed jumping up to take a passing insect in the claws, and hawking insects in the air, such as is done by nightjars. And once again we encounter the white-throated kingfisher. Notably, this species nests in a tunnel that it constructs. The tunnel is about 50 centimeters long, or 20 inches, and it is built into an earthen bank. A single clutch of 4 to 7 round eggs is typical. The eggs take 20 to 22 days to hatch, while the chicks fledge in 19 days. Despite its name, the Indian Scops owl does not occur only in India, though it is found mainly on what is known as the Indian subcontinent. It is also found in Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Iran. It feeds on beetles, grasshopper larvae, as well as small rodents, small birds, and gecko. The spotted owlet is a small, uncrested owl with a round head and a short tail. It is grayish-brown overall with white spots above, while its underparts are white with brown bars. Note the distinctive white eyebrows and neckband, often active at dawn and dusk when it utters a loud cheer, cheer, cheer laugh in addition to a variety of high-pitched squeals and whistles. The Eurasian coot, also known as the common coot or Australian coot, is a member of the rail and crake bird family, the Rallidae. It is found in Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and parts of North Africa. Eurasian coots breed in Europe, Asia, Australia, and Africa. They have recently expanded their range into New Zealand. These birds are residents in the milder parts of their range, only preferring nomadic movements. However, populations from much of Asia migrate further south and west in winter as waters freeze. Eurasian coots inhabit freshwater lakes, ponds, pools, creeks, rivers, and river deltas, marshes, freshwater meadows, flooded grasslands, and freshwater and saline lagoons. The bronze-winged jacana is a wader in the family Iacanidae. It is found across South and Southeast Asia and is the sole species in the genus Metopodius. Like other jacanas, it forages on lilies and other floating aquatic vegetation, the long feet spreading out its weight and preventing sinking. The sexes are alike, but females are slightly larger and are polyandrous, maintaining a harem of males during the breeding season in the monsoon rains. Males maintain territories, with one male in the harem chosen to incubate the eggs and take care of the young. When threatened, young chicks may be carried to safety by the male under his wings. The ring-necked parakeet or rose-ringed parakeet is native to Central Africa and ranges from as far north as Egypt, as far west as Senegal, as far east as Ethiopia, and as far south as Uganda. It is also native to parts of Asia, such as Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. Ring-necked parakeets have been introduced by humans to European countries such as Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Slovenia, Spain, and the United Kingdom. Here we see a female nilgai on the left and a male nilgai on the right in Sultanpur National Park. We can further note on this species that the nilgai is endemic to the Indian subcontinent. Major populations occur in India, Nepal, and Pakistan. The population in Bangladesh became extinct in the early 20th century, but some individuals from Indian and Nepalese populations crossed the border into the northwest of the country. Significant numbers occur in the Terai lowlands in the foothills of the Himalayas. The nilgai is abundant across northern India. It prefers areas with short bushes and scattered trees in scrub forests and grassy plains. They are common in agricultural lands, but hardly occur in dense woods. The greater spotted eagle, occasionally simply called the spotted eagle, is a large bird of prey. Like all typical eagles, it belongs to the family Accipitridae. Its feathered legs indicate it is a member of the subfamily Aquilinae, also known as the booted eagles. The greater spotted eagle is a medium-sized, rather bulky and compact eagle. Normally it is black-brown with a contrasting yellow cere. This species has a short neck but a large, often rather shaggy-naped head with a strong bill and a short gape line with round nostrils. This species hunts mainly on the wing, quartering over relatively open ground a bit like a harrier, or soaring high above, dropping or diving steeply when prey is spotted. Greater spotted eagles will scatter waterfowl by stooping low over their flock, then selecting isolated individuals for attack. The primary threats to greater spotted eagles are habitat degradation and habitat loss. The painted stork is a large, stately stork with an enormous black bill, black head and neck. The female has yellow eyes. In flight, note the white belly and the mostly white wings with a central black panel, long red-pink legs trailing behind. Immature has darker upper wings, usually found singly or in pairs around tropical wetlands and ponds. The black-necked stork chiefly frequents and requires extensive, comparatively undisturbed freshwater wetlands, including swamps, lakes, lagoons, flooded grassland, and water meadows. While the diet is mainly comprised of fish, it will also include frogs, hatchling turtles, freshwater turtles and their eggs, crabs, prawns, mollusks, beetles, and other arthropods. It has been known to capture water birds, including the little grebe and the common coot, which were swallowed whole. In India, it breeds August through January. Clutch size is usually 2 to 3 eggs. Young fledge in about 100 to 115 days.